It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the African Podcast TV. This podcast is about Africa regarding the political side, the historical side, the economical side, the cultural side, and so many more. Each week, I deliver my best thought and analysis regarding Africa. Here, your host, Amaduba. I have a special guest with me here. Join me to welcome my first guest is Mrs. D. Yvonne Riveras. She's the founder and managing principal of FOBI and marketing group Expanded Global Outreach. Thank you so much for joining me this weekend on African Podcast TV.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. My second guest is Mrs. Irene Ochem. She is the founder and CEO at African Innovation and Entrepreneurship Forum. Thank you so much for joining me this weekend on African Podcast TV.
Thank you, Amadu, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. You're welcome. Mrs. Irene, we are here today to talk about empowerment of women in Africa. Thank you so much for your work. You have been doing a fantastic job in Africa, especially about women. Thank you again. So the first question I'll be asking you, how do you see women? How do you see empowerment of women in Africa? And what is the role of women in Africa, in the families?
Well, how do I see the role of women in Africa? I think women play a very important, significant role in every aspect of Africa's social and economic development. Women represent some 50% of African population, and neglecting 50% of your population is playing at your own risk. So I think women have a great role to play, both in the African economy, in social development, in cultural development, in politics, and in every aspect of Africa's development. They are critical to Africa's development. Without women working together as partners, without women getting the necessary support that they need, that they require to be able to participate fully and equitably in African issues, we will not be getting the development that we desire for Africa. So women are important, they're critical for family and then for the economy and for the continent at large.
Thank you. Mrs. Yvonne, thank you so much for your work. You have been doing a fantastic job too, especially for women and entrepreneurship. Thank you. So I'll be asking you the same question. How do you see empowerment of women in Africa, and what is the role of women in the societies?
Wonderful. Thank you for that question. And thank you, Irene, because you're so true. That 50% of the population of the continent. Now, let me just talk about that. I've been in business over 25 years, but for the last 10 years, I've been on the continent. So my initiative is women. And I always say, give woman a place to stand in the world and she can move the world. It's so awesome, all the things my African sisters are doing. And I really am African. My heritage is in Africa. So even though I've lived in the United States, I am African. And for the last 10 years of working with women, it's amazing what they do. Not only in the role they play in the home, because I say, give a woman money to start a business, she then takes care of that whole family. So her role in the home is taking care of family when need to be, as well as playing an integral part of the economic empowerment of the country. And when I say of the country, leadership, business, setting community, infrastructure, agribusiness, and going from cocoa or cashews or just in crafts and jewelry and artistry. They really use, and I say they, meaning women, use all their talents and their capabilities to really put on the table things that not only take care of their family, but take care of the world. So major roles.
Well, thank you. And let's talk about again entrepreneurship, Mrs. Irene. That's your specialty. You have been, yeah, that's your job. So we know that the world highest number of women entrepreneurs is in Africa. For example, Botswana has had 34.6%, and Uganda had 34.89%. So what is the role of women in entrepreneurship and how to work with them as a partners?
Well, yes, yeah, that's very correct, Amadou. Africa leads the world in female entrepreneurship, actually. You have just mentioned them correctly. Botswana and Uganda and Ghana. Okay,
Mhm.
so women
Mhm.
are great entrepreneurs. They create and form more business than men, but they have to deal with a lot more challenges. And so you find
Yes.
out that women are not able to play at the same uh, rate, at the same, there is no equitable access to the ingredients of a
Mhm.
successful entrepreneurship. And when I say ingredients, I mean access to finance, I mean access to market, I mean access to network,
Mhm.
I mean access to entrepreneurial skills and training, capacity building. So you, because of all these challenges, you find out that most female-owned businesses are in the lower category. They achieve, lesser growth than male owned businesses. And then you also find women businesses concentrating on those sectors that are
Mhm.
not as profit, making as some other sectors. So they are mainly in the service industry. They tend to be less in tech-enabled technology sectors. So what we
Mhm.
do as African Women Innovation and Entrepreneurship Forum, we are a Pan-African organization, and our aim,
Mhm.
our goal is to support the growth and the success of women-owned businesses, to help them scale, to help them access opportunities, and to help them establish and build sustainable and successful businesses.
Mrs. Yvonne, what do you think about that?
Well, Irene, that's why I've been in the continent for the past 10 years, because all the things you're just saying, actually, it really affects women around the world. Here in the United States, they say what they say. You hear me say, they say that women earn
Mhm.
74 cents to the dollar. I say we can
Mhm.
earn $1.50 to every dollar that a man makes, but it's up to us. And you're so right regarding for as women starting businesses, but not able, shouldn't say not able, they don't have the capability, they don't have the education, the access. And that's one thing
Mhm.
that I've been bringing to what my training, because I do entrepreneurship training in Africa, have run some different
Mhm.
cohorts. And the key thing is giving them that talent, that capability, and that access so they can
Mhm.
really go into manufacturing, go into tech enable, go into reaching and scaling and bringing employees on. Because if you've
Mhm.
not been to that level before, there are ways to get there. It's not overnight, but you set that pace. So I really have
Mhm.
developed an African Dream Business Institute, and that's something, Irene, hopefully we can connect to do. I actually have been working with some women entrepreneurs in Africa through the US State Department, through the AGOA Act. It was started 20 years ago. The AWEP, the African Women's Entrepreneurship Program. I work with an organization, African Women in Europe. So a lot of different African women, and really looking to take them to the level that they've never been before. And not that they may have the
Mhm.
capability or the need to want to go there, but it's a step-by-step process. And just as you say,
Mhm.
Irene, for it's not in, they're typically not in manufacturing. Or if they're in artistry, they pretty much will sell their goods at a marketplace versus exporting. So I'm really working with some now who are really developing different crafts. And instead of them just selling in Africa, we're talking about import export and selling them
Mhm.
to global countries, setting up e-commerce sites so they really can scale and bring in other people. And the key word you also said, Irene, sustainable. It's not about
Mhm.
just doing something now. You've got to keep it going. And if you don't know how to keep it going with that system, or you put into
Mhm.
place different things, that's how you see the million and billion-dollar businesses. They have systems in place, but you have to learn to know the systems. You need to know how to access the networks. You know how to ask. You need to know how to ask for the business. What's your pitch? Because I actually am involved with an organization, Pitch School Africa, that people actually do learn your 2-minute pitch and how you can pitch to investors, you can pitch to customers, you can pitch for contracts, because that's
Mhm.
money. That's money that can go into your business to help you buy supplies, inventory, marketing, and that's your funding. Because you really have to look at, as you say, Irene, if you don't have the money to really for you to start and grow your business, you're unable to move to the next level. So that's the role and goal that I play, is helping African women entrepreneurs move to that next level.
Good. So,
Absolutely. That's fantastic, Yvonne. And I think we have, there are a lot of synergies there.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
we'll be doing great things together.
Yes, indeed, indeed, and go after the money. I'm that progressive person. Is that I don't expect it to come to me. I go for it, but you have to be ready for it, because anything they ask you regarding your numbers, regarding your price point, regarding your cost of goods, those are the key things I teach in my training. Because there's more than you producing something, you sell it for a price. Are you truly making money? What's your profit point? What's your profit percentage? Those are numbers that you have to know.
Absolutely.
perfect. Okay, Mrs. Irene, I just want to talk about African innovation and entrepreneurship. Just people have been asking me to ask you that question. So can you tell us more about the African innovation and entrepreneurship and how does that work?
Okay. The AWIEF. All right. That's my baby. Okay.
Okay, talk to me. Talk to us about your baby.
So we are an organization that we work to promote and to support the development of women entrepreneurship on the continent of Africa. How do we do this? We have programs that we design, sometimes by our own, others we co-design with partners, with development partners, with other minded organizations, and then we implement these programs. And these programs all work towards addressing one or two of those challenges that I already mentioned, and which is how do you access finance? Yvonne just spoke about being ready with your pitch, knowing your numbers, and that kind of a thing. We complain that women don't have access to finance, but you have to also be ready for finance, investment ready. So we have accelerator programs that address that challenge. Then we also have incubation programs where we take young, early, not early, the idea stage, startups, women ideas, and help them to develop, incubate them, and then to launch their businesses. Then we have other programs that work around bringing women together, creating the network. Women need to come together. They need to network. Peer-to-peer learning is very powerful.
Yes.
And networking is a very powerful way of, connecting to those opportunities, accessing opportunities. So we create that environment to help you access opportunities. And through this one, we are now working on, we have actually done it. We have launched a digital platform. We are trying to leverage technology to create an AWIF community so that we can have these Pan-African women together in a platform, where a digital platform, where through technology, they can connect them to themselves, share ideas, showcase their businesses, and learn amongst themselves, empower, encourage, and motivate each other. Then we bring together there too. We try to bring there our partners, the investment partners, the development partners, looking to support, to access these women entrepreneurs. It's a platform where we will also be rolling out learning opportunities, knowledge. So different master classes or courses, training courses, be it financial management, be it e-commerce or anything. So it can be any learning opportunity. Then one of the things that we have been doing from the very first beginning of AWIEF is hosting the annual AWIF conference. Okay, and since 2017, we added the awards event. So the conference is about bringing the whole ecosystem together to every year showcase women entrepreneurship on the continent. We bring the development partners together. We bring the government policymakers, the women entrepreneurs themselves, the corporates, the business service providers, the media. So we bring them together to discuss issues about women's economic empowerment and women entrepreneurship. What are those issues? We see the trends. We see who is doing what. How do we partner? How do people partner to create, more impactful opportunities? Because when you work together, you work further. You build more sustainability into whatever you are doing. So that is what the conference is all about, and we host it every year. And since 2017, we also added the AWIF Awards. The AWIF Awards is to celebrate, to recognize excellence in female entrepreneurship on the continent. So we have 8 categories of that. And with these awards, every year we identify and we select, the best, women who are doing things across. They want to be recognized. They want to be appreciated. They want to be showcased. So that is what we do. The conference is coming up now on the 2nd and 3rd of December as a virtual event. And I hope to see you there.
Hopefully you will see me.
Absolutely, Amado.
Yes. I'll be there too.
Mrs. Yvonne, okay, you too, please, can you tell us about your organization, and we would like to know more about it.
Okay, sure. My company is Phoebe Marketing Group, which was established in 1997. And we are a global business marketing, coaching, training organization whose work in the US is around the world. And as I said before, for the past 10 years, we've been working globally. And we started working globally virtually, as well as it being on site. I've not traveled this year, 2020. Actually, 2020, I was scheduled to be in 20 countries. 20 countries. I've not been to one. The COVID hit before my first travel was to be in April. And I was actually holding off because I was scheduled to be in Dubai from December 2nd through the 11th. That's not going to happen either. So with the global travel, as well as here in the United States, is working with, and my initiative is women entrepreneurs and youth entrepreneurs, because I'm really training the future. So my goal really is in helping people to prepare to be sustainable and scalable businesses, from everything of teaching you how to pitch. I started DC Shark Tank. Irene, you've got to come to DC, and I will host you when you come. Okay, I'll take it.
Post-COVID.
But in 2015, I started DC Shark Tank. And the reason for that is a pitch competition. I found that so many businesses I was working with, when I asked them what they did, even with a networking situation, they couldn't tell me in 60 seconds or a minute on who they were, what they did, and the reason why you should do business with them. So that pitch competition actually was a starting point to really showed me so many businesses. And I'm talking about businesses been in business for 10, 20 years. And they really didn't know their pitch. Well, lo and behold, as we talk about when you do something, I reached out there and started DC Shark Tank. And I don't know, in Africa, do they have a pitch competition? Is it called Dragon's Nest? Or maybe that was England or whatever, about a pitch competition. Well, it's here in the United States, it's called Shark Tank. Well, the real Shark Tank from LA came to my office here in DC and did auditions. So that itself showed me is the impact that people needed to learn that. So since 2015, I've been hosting pitch competitions really around the world. And so that itself will lead them to actually getting financing. But before that, the training. So we do have synergy there, Irene. I'm just waiting to work with you, because that's what started the American Dream Business Institute. And since 2 years ago, started the African Dream Business Institute, which is now turned to global, because I'm doing training in London and Germany and around the world other than Africa and the US right now. So my goal is a business coach, and I do business coach for Eureka.biz. I'm a business coach one-on-one. I do mastermind classes, business plans, marketing plan. But my whole goal is to spread that curriculum of training, that I have a curriculum that I've developed probably 10, 15 years ago. And it's always been virtual. So I really have a curriculum no matter where I am, whether it's a 2-week program, 3-week program. It can fit into an incubator, accelerator, tie into that. I've done some things in training for eBay startup. And actually, when we talk about, Irene, all the women entrepreneurs, my goal is to get 50,000 African women entrepreneurs on one tech platform at one time.
Mhm.
We can get 50,000 just to really, really talk about what they're doing, because that impact of just even a 5,000 women, whether they're African or around the world, is major money. And that's the key thing. When they develop that plan, that they can produce hundreds of thousands of dollars, more than they've ever made, because it's the key thing. You have to build on it. So I'm not promising anything quick overnight, but it's you learn those fundamentals, and then you can use those fundamentals to really take you through that. So Phoebe Marketing Group is a global business coaching, marketing, and training and development organizations with individual businesses, with corporations, and even with government. I've done some work for the Small Business Administration here in Washington, D.C., or nationally, as well as working with some countries in Africa of helping them to do strategic planning. That itself is who I am.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And Mrs. Irene, this question is for you. What do you think about African women in the workforce, especially most of them work as street vendors and seasonal agricultural workers?
Well, yes, Amadou, that's correct. You have a lot of women on the continent operating at the informal level. And that includes operating as in the agricultural sector and as a small farm holders, okay, and a lot of time also in the rural communities. So that is correct. And one of the challenges, Africa's challenges, is actually how to address that issue, that problem, okay, to support women. That's what we are talking about, women's economic empowerment, equity,
Yes.
economic equity. Economic equity, I don't talk gender equality. I rather talk gender equity. And that means giving the same access to opportunities, to everybody, to men and women alike, be it
Yes.
education, be it economic opportunities, political opportunities. So you have a lot of women operating at that informal level as market traders, as cross-border traders, as smallholder farmers. And the idea is our programs all focus on how to help them, climb up the value business value chains, profit, make profits out of their businesses, access opportunities just as much as men are able to access them, train them, provide training opportunities. So yeah, that's what we do. And Yvonne, I see a lot of synergies, absolutely, the pitching thing. And what that means, that's one of the reasons why we have launched the digital platform, the Awife
Yeah.
community, because with this platform, we are better able to access any kind of resource, any
Yes.
kind of expertise, like yourself, virtually from anywhere in the world, and it's exciting, and we are ready for it. So we'll
Yes.
be knocking on your door.
Okay.
Okay, Mrs. Yvonne, this question is for you. And in your knowledge, what African government and private organizations should work together to promote women's empowerment in Africa?
Well, and I say this, and I'm actually working with the Kenyan government now. And I don't know why I keep saying it. I'm scheduled to be in January to go to Kenya for a couple of months to be on the ground to work with the government regarding women empowerment and sustainability. Who knows whether COVID is still around or whatever then. But I'll say this, and I definitely am so interested in talking to you, Irene, because there are components that are based in the US that will serve African businesses and women from the ADF, African Development Bank, US State Department, and so forth, the AGOA Act, as well as government in setting up information for SMEs. And part of that is working with the government to bring up the points that you just said, Irene, about 34% of Zambia or whoever with women entrepreneurs. We do more with venture capital money than men do. We stretch those dollars. So it's like making the case to government I do have some meetings and working now of hoping to work with them as collaborator to tie the government in on developing programs for women entrepreneurs. Now that's one particular country. But back again, we talk about if we can do it in Kenya, we can do it for other countries of the continent. But that's the key thing with that. But I have found with my work I've done, a lot of times people don't know of what access they can do and collaboration. What you just said, I'll tell you, Irene, I go with the collaborations. I'm not out here trying to do something on my own. And what has I've learned? Ubuntu, I am because you are, or we are. But we have to work together. We go far with working together because I have this, you have that. We bring in someone else who has that. Between all of this, when we go with that united force to a government, they will listen. They will listen. But we have to go there with that united front, and we can get programs set up with the government. And I use a lot of what I've learned here in the US and what the work I do in the continent. Because here in the US, with the federal dollars coming from the US government, will come down to different 50 states, then it comes down to the different cities, that you have to really go before the government, show forth the benefits of really connecting to women entrepreneurs and to me also youth entrepreneurs, as well as I work with people who've come out of prison. I work with people who are in shelters. I've been zooming into a women's shelter once a week since COVID hit. And some of those women there, it's long term, up to 18 months, I'm teaching them how they can really develop a craft for e-commerce business. Because if they're homeless now, maybe that'll help you get quicker off of homelessness. So I say that that entrepreneurship is really the lifeline for really economic empowerment. So when you asked about governments are open book. They're open book, no matter what government, no matter what country, no matter what continent. And as I say, I work globally. So my focus is mainly on Africa, Europe, and North America, but it really, really will affect things around the world. So there are ways to do it, if that's your question there, and how you do it is collaboration, developing a presentation, getting connected with the person. Actually, for the governments as well as universities, I've got a proposal and meeting with some people at the Jomo Kenyatta University in Nairobi, Kenya on Tuesday. So there are really so many opportunities around the world, as well as HBCUs here in the United States.
Well,
Opportunities.
thank you. Well, so Mrs. Irene, this question is for you, and let's talk about the issues, the challenges that are facing women, especially women in Africa. And in your opinion, what are the issues that are facing women's empowerment in Africa, and how to solve them?
Well, thank you, Amadou, again. The challenges are mainly four critical challenges, and they are finance, and the second one is market. The third one is network, and the fourth one is entrepreneurship skills, having the right skills. So these are the four critical challenges, and once you start to work around these four issues, you see the businesses, begin to scale and become sustainable. And Yvonne has mentioned very critical things happening on the continent, and it's so I was kind of laughing inside myself because they are all the things that we are trying to do now. You spoke about e-commerce, leveraging the opportunity of technology, using technology to widen, enhance your access to market for your product or for your service. And with that, you can do that with e-commerce. COVID-19 has also made it even more, interesting and evident that that is the way to go if you want to widen, your access to market. So we are actually running a program now on e-commerce in partnership with the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives through the Canadian High Commission here in South Africa. Then you also mentioned about pitching. Yes, of course, we know about that. You mentioned about collaboration, partnership. We value partnership a lot. That is what has been driving our programs. You cannot go it alone. So we value, excuse me, we value partnerships a lot, and we partner with many organizations, institutions to deploy programs, and that is when we get more impact. We are actually currently implementing the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, which is a component of the US government global
development,
global development and prosperity initiative,
yeah,
which is driven by the White House. So the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs is an element, it's one of the pillars of that global program, a program that they are implementing in 52 countries around the world. And we are the implementing partners for this program in South Africa. We are actually launching it tomorrow. That's, starting it tomorrow with a webinar, with a webinar in partnership with the US Embassy in South Africa. And for the conference, for example, we have the US ambassador to South Africa who will open the conference with a keynote. So we have a lot of partnerships. We are working with a lot of development sector organizations, development partners, players. We have AGRA coming, who has been partnering with us for the past 2-3 years. We have the corporates, so we have the banks. We have NetBank, who is a great supporter. We have Shell, that has been supporting us for the past 3 years running. So partnership is critical, and that is when you get impact. We partner with the government sector too, because we are also an advocacy body, because without the government making the right policies, to support, create the enabling environment to support women entrepreneurship, it will not work. Government cannot create the jobs, but they can help to make it happen. And we believe that it is better to channel people, channel women, not only women, but youth, men into entrepreneurship, because the jobs are not there, so it's better to become job creators than just job seekers, because the governments cannot create all that jobs for everyone. So, but we can create opportunities for ourselves and leverage government policies, and incentives to then build on and sustain those businesses.
Well, Mrs. Yvonne, before you add something else, I would like to ask you a question. You can add something if you would like to add something on that question. So, what can be done economically empower women in Africa, and why women's economic empowerment is important?
Well, it's when I say it's simple, that why it's important, because number one, half of the businesses are run by women. Women play an integral part of that. What can be done, as Irene just specified, those 4 different pillars you need to address, and they can be addressed. And key thing, you're doing awesome work. I really applaud you. So I welcome the opportunity to collaborate and work with you. Those different things there is about, and one more thing I'll say, and Irene, you can, I think, attest to this. When you show a woman how she can grow to a level that she never thought she could, and she can be hiring people, that puts her at a different mindset than she's ever been before. And when you talk about you can't depend on the government or anyone else to create jobs. That is on you to create jobs. That is on you also of partnering and finding those inroads to where the money is to support you. If you need access to finance, I am actually a micro investor, and I call a micro investor. I'm invested in a pig farm in Ghana. When I tell people that I own farm, true. I grew up on a farm in Virginia, here in the United States. So now, and we had pigs in. Well, I'm still officially a pig farmer in Ghana by buying into a pig farm. So people have to look at innovative ways to bringing in money. It's not per se equity, like you give up some share of your stock, but you buy in. I think I've got 2 of the female pig sows and 10 piglets. So I'm an investor in there, because I'm feeding into this young lady who I saw her dream, I saw her vision, I saw her inspiration, and that is my goal, to really lift up Minnie and I'm an investor in a lot of different things here in the United States. But the key thing is and look for where the money is. Don't look for that, whether it's a pitch competition, you can make money, whether it's an investor, whether it's a venture capitalist, and advocacy, or basically the quickest way of getting money is a contract. So getting a contract, that itself gives you that seed money, gives you that reserve, gives you all of that. So it's so important, Amadou, because we help the world grow. I mean, I say the world, not only just the continent, but across the world. So women's empowerment, women's economic advantage, all of that. That whole thing, again, you heard me say, my goal is to help every woman achieve $1.50 over and above in work, not look at getting less than because they don't want to give us access. We can find a way. There is always a way, always.
Yes. Perfect. So, Mrs. Irene, let's talk about the government. And again, I know that you have been just mentioning about the South African government, and you have been working with the government. I know that. So, just let's talk about how African government can change laws and break barriers for women's economic empowerment in Africa, and how to give equal opportunities to women in Africa.
Well, yes, thank you, Amadou. Simply, they can do that by making the right policies, mainstreaming gender in every aspect of government policy making, and budget, gender budgeting too, starting with the budgeting. So they should consider the fact that women are constrained. Women don't have the same access to every opportunity, and ensure that policies are right and targeted, to solve these problems. So it's all about policy making and regulating also the implementation of those policies. It's not enough to make policies.
Right.
We must ensure that those policies are correctly implemented to get the desired impact. So that is what the government needs to do, essentially. Okay, and then they need to create incentives, to support women. Really be intentional about it. Realizing, understanding, accepting that there is this lack of gender parity, and that it is in the economic interest of the continent, it is in the political interest of the continent, it is in the social interest of the continent to do that, to empower women so that they can perform better and access more opportunities and perform better. When a woman is economically empowered, the benefits, you start to see it right from the families.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, an economically empowered woman would ensure that the children are educated, the children are well established, and with that family background, it goes into the community. From the community, it goes into the country. From the country, it goes into the continent. So it flows in, and additionally, economically empowering the woman helps to also address those other issues about women, violence against women, non-participatory of women in politics, or, I don't know, social bias and all that. Because when a woman is economically empowered, that woman has a voice. That woman has a voice. And a woman with a voice can then decide to act and take decisions about things that affect her, the things that are in her interest. If she finds herself in a violent situation, like in a marriage that is not treating her well, she can walk away from violence because she is economically empowered. She can take care of herself. An economically empowered woman can then decide, I want to be in politics, and she can enter into politics to help make decisions. Because we have better political decisions when it's
exactly. We will talk about that too. We will talk about that. That's really something really important. We will talk about that too. Yeah. So Mrs. Yvonne, would you like to add something on that?
Yeah, thank you for that, Irene, because when you talk about setting up an advocacy of the laws and implementing, and I say this, the United States has just elected their first woman vice president.
Mhm.
Africa has had presidents for years,
Mhm.
women vice presidents. So I always would say that before, well, Africa has had women presidents and vice presidents. How come United States hasn't? And
Mhm.
4 years ago, I voted for Hillary Clinton, was hoping she would be in. But that comes back to when you've got women in leadership of government,
Mhm.
then they have an impact. I call it behind the door,
Mhm.
because they can push those policies and those principles. So that's why when you talk about, I really look at for as a networking. There are women presidents, and I think right now Burundi and Ethiopia, they have female women presidents, and there are some women vice presidents in Africa. So you need to look at for as what kind of advocacy can they do behind the scenes, as well as any prime ministers or anyone in the government who really believes in your cause. And the cause is women empowerment and women entrepreneurship. So it then goes again about telling your story. Get in front of them and telling the story to get them involved with knowing about the benefits of the advocacy of the benefits of the economic empowerment of that woman. Because just as you say, Irene, it starts in the home with the woman taking care of the home, taking care of the kids, educating the kids going out, becoming empowered themselves, not really allowing themselves to be access to violence because they've got another way out. They've got that way out. So it's the whole thing, giving them those things they can work with. So that is so important. So important. Yes.
Perfect. So let's talk about politics. Mrs. Irene, you was talking about the role of women in politics. That's something really, really important. But we know that some women, they're not really interested in politics. Some of them, they do. Even some of them, they do interested in politics. They kind of little shy, some of them, but not all of them, especially in Africa. We see that. So what is the role of women in politics, and why women are not engaging more into it, and how to change that?
Well, I think women could have a very important role to play in politics. When we have, as a matter of fact, Africa has also a global record in women's participation in politics, and that is Rwanda. Okay, Rwanda has the highest number of women in parliament, over 64%. They have a world record. And you can see what is happening in Rwanda. Not only that, some 64% of the government ministers and cabinet positions are held by women. But you see also critical government institutions being driven by women in Rwanda. And that is one of the reasons why Rwanda is doing so well. Because as women, there is something that God has given us. So we bring a lot to the table in terms of decision making. So I believe that it is in the interest of African government, to fight against the societal, tribal bias and social norms that kind of work against women participating fully in politics. It is improving. There is an improvement, but it's very, very little. It's a very little improvement. There is a lot. We have 54 African countries. How many of them are led by women? So we are still very, very far from where we need to be in women's leadership in politics. But it is very important, to have women leaders, have women get more involved in politics, because we would have better decisions, political decisions, and peace on the continent. Women are great peacemakers. They will bring a lot to the table if we involve them as in the peace talks. In the, you see now at the African Union, when there is problem in any country, it's usually a male game, So, but if we
It's
have
the
more,
men, Abadu, people
yes,
like you.
yes, these men talking, and trying to solve problems with only muscles or whatever. Yeah, but if we have more women in peace building, I think we would have a more peaceful society and a economically viable society too, socially and otherwise, culturally. So it is in Africa's. It's time for Africa to consider their women, involve their women. A lot of countries have become aware of that, and they are creating incentives, policies, making politics. They are doing it. South Africa is great in doing it. I have mentioned Rwanda. There is Ethiopia, Kenya. Kenya has actually, I think, 36% of procurement that must go to women entrepreneurs. So that's a great start. So yeah.
Mrs. Okay, thank you for that, Mrs. Yvonne. I know that you are very excited about the vice president, the new vice president in this country. She will be a woman, and then you just talk about some country in Africa, Ethiopia, and the same question. So, what is the role of women in politics, and why women are not engaging more into it, and how to change that?
Well, again, just as Irene said, is because we're peacemakers. Women, we are peacemakers, and women are engaged in politics. It's not necessarily edges. And I attest, I was in Rwanda last year, Irene, and met some of the prime ministers. Actually, I'm working with some women leaders in Rwanda. It is so true that when you have those women there, it is, Irene said, it's just something about us. You can call that it thing or whatever you name you put on it. But it really does come down because you have to have peace to have agreement. I'm actually doing some training here now, online training to get certified in dialogue, negotiating dialogue regarding race, because here in the US and I guess across the world, that difference in race. So I'm doing community stakeholders meetings and dialogue and having conversations about race, because that's real important. But it's the key thing of learning how to do that, because you really have to look at, it's not about trying to be right, but it's having a conversation about that. And that is exactly what Irene was talking about, is that when the government itself are willing to have a conversation about what the effect of having women, programs, incentives, and so forth. And I go back to comparing women regarding how Blacks in the United States have not had equal rights. So you have to really come to the table with us and really understand from our side what you need to do. It's not a handout. It's something we've not had before. We've had to work harder than others before. And we've done that, and we've reached that top. But yet and still, it's not like you're coming back and we're not giving you quality work. But the key thing about with all governments is having that conversation and that dialogue. And that's what I call it. You have that dialogue with government, and then women see that you can have an effective change. People tend maybe to get disappointed if they feel like whatever they do, they're not going to progress. But just as Irene mentioned, for Rwanda, 26 years ago, because I was actually there last year doing a commemoration, the 25th year commemoration of the genocide. 26 years ago, 1 million people were killed in Rwanda. Look at them now. I met one of the prime ministers there. So it's awesome. And the president is very progressive with that. So that's what it takes. But it doesn't just happen overnight. You have to have the advocacy. And I say, show up at the community meetings, whether it's the city council here in DC or ANC or different government. You have to get involved with the government. You've got to show up. You can't stay in your village, you stay in your home and say you want change, but you're not willing to effect change. You've got to show up.
Yes, you definitely have to show up. You don't have to
show up
and say that you want to change. That's not going to happen. You have to engage with them. You have to be there with them, and then make sure you participate on everything, on every level. So that's definitely going to change. Some people don't understand that, but some of them understand that. The people who don't understand that, I think so, they have to change their behavior. They have to be on point, be there with them. So, Mrs. Irene, let's talk about young women in Africa. We know that your generation and my generation is kind of is different, and the generation of Mrs. Yvonne is different. So right now, some young women they have a really different behavior. So, what advice would you like to give to women, especially the young women?
Well, what I would advise the young women is to drive their passion and ambition, to not be afraid to get involved into politics early on as young people, or to get into entrepreneurship, because the government cannot provide all the jobs for them, and the government needs them also in decision making. So every young person, as a matter of fact, Africa is a bulging, it's a youth bulging
Youth,
um,
yeah.
society. So, and I see also our young people very active, very ready to, to do things, very ready to throw themselves in. All they need is that government enabling um, opportunities, enabling them, creating the enabling environment for that to happen. They are ready to work. They are not afraid. That's what I'm seeing. And they are full of ideas, coming up with great innovative ideas. We are working with them in different programs. We are currently implementing a Women in Tech program in partnership with Mohammed VI Polytechnic University. We see they are all young women in their less than 30 years, maximum 35 years, with very great ideas, innovative ideas in solutions, in fintech, in agri-tech, in health tech, in education, in environmental management, in renewable energy. So, and these are all young people, young women and young men, ready to work, ready to help Africa turn turn around. That is Africa's time. Everybody is saying it's exciting, and I'm glad that I am around this time in Africa, because it's a great time indeed. And
Perfect.
everybody that is involved, Amadou, people like you, telling the African narrative, telling the story, because we
Yes.
also need the media
Yes.
to tell our stories. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Thank you for that. So, Mrs. Yvonne, and what advice would you like to give to women, especially the young women?
Well, regarding essentially get involved, and I actually have I don't call it, well, it's part apprenticeship, part internship. I actually have an intern in Zimbabwe who's my virtual assistant. She's 19 years old, and I've done programs here in the US. So the key thing that I'm reaching out of bringing young women up under my wing as a corporate owner to teach them and train them and pay them give them an idea of how it works. And it's a training period because, quite frankly, different generations. And actually, I'll be very honest with you. Last week, that my virtual assistant, she had posted something on her Facebook that was
Mhm.
not really needed to be on Facebook. So
Mhm.
she got a call from me early that morning because that was the first thing I saw when I opened up my phone. And I was
Mhm.
like, take it down, take it down.
Mhm.
So they need that guidance also because it wasn't reflective of her. It was
Mhm.
how she was dressed and all that. So it's like we have to train up these young people the way they need to go.
Mhm.
Now, I will help you along with you. Then I'm going to cover you and really teach you the way that you need to be going, as well as supporting you and
Mhm.
building you up. And as you build up, then you can have for your own. Because my intention really is to train her so she can have her own business. But you've
Mhm.
got to learn and go through the steps of learning how to do that. Or setting up apprenticeship program, setting up internship program, so they get to know. Because if they don't know, and I say this to her all the time, I don't expect you to know anything if you've not been trained. So it doesn't just happen. It's not magic. When I tell you to do something, if you've never been told how to do it, that's foolish of me to
Mhm.
expect that. So we of the generation, and I've been around for a while, and played here. So I'm 60 plus. Okay. I'm 60 plus. I've been around here a period of time and learned a lot of things. And a lot of times I didn't have that mentor. I didn't have that person who looked like me that will train me. So
Mhm.
that's my go to pay it forward, pay it backward, or whatever you want to call it, of building up and pulling young people along with me. And along with that, when they see that potential, because sometimes they'll look at people like me or Irene and think, oh, they've worked this on, I'll never get there. Well, they can.
Mhm.
Give
Mhm.
them that they can and take them
Yes.
to step by step and show them how, and they
Mhm.
will.
Okay, thank you for that. So we are about to end this interview, and Mrs. Irene, would you like to add something?
No, thank you, Amadou. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your platform. And well
Yeah.
done for the great job you are doing.
Thank you
Yes.
for that. Okay, Mrs. Yvonne, what about you?
Thank you again for the opportunity for connecting Irene and I, because the whole world is a small world,
Yes.
but we're all
Uh,
connected
I'm,
together.
I'm- we've just found out that we have a common friend, eh?
Yes. And along
Okay.
with it, thank you for what you're doing of reaching out, because the story needs to be told, and
Yeah.
of having different people on and talking about the different issues
Mhm.
until we bring forth what's needed. People
Yeah.
don't know where to go, but that's why solutions, you don't know how to solve something unless you determine what the issue is. And
Yes.
so thank you for all the issues you brought up. Definitely women empowerment across the globe. I'm an African, so the
Mhm.
continent is my home. So
Mhm.
that's where I love to work.
Thank you so much for joining me this weekend on African People Podcast, ladies.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.